Welcome to Second Table, where we discuss spirituality, philosophy, and psychology. I'm your host, Winston Janusz. Welcome back to another episode of Second Table, everybody. Today I'm here with Jessica Janusz, my wife.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for finally having me.
Yeah. So today we want to talk to everybody about the coronavirus. And basically, it seems as though it's been the only thing that we can even think about. And as we talked about, we kind of wanted to do this to mark the moment and to kind of just just process what's going on, what we're feeling, and let you all know that we're in it together and that we're with you, and we're all feeling pretty anxious now and uncertain, and that it's totally normal to feel that way. Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's almost, it's like almost you can't think of anything else except this virus from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. And maybe we're kind of getting sucked into the news, but I think everyone's just kind of glued to the news right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally hour by hour updates. Us in general, we don't really watch the news. We don't wake up and just throw on the news. It's not the kind of people we are. But with this situation, we're just incessantly checking the news because it seems like every single day there's new updates, new information about this whole virus that's actually really important. And so I, for one, have, just been glued to it, always checking my phone, checking updates. And it's kind of crazy because you know how when something really drastic in your life happens, you have a big breakup or a death in the family, you go to sleep at night, and then when you wake up, the first thing that you think of, it hits you like a wave, is this new reality. And that's happening for me every morning I wake up.
It definitely has that quality of, I can't believe this is happening.
It feels surreal. Like I feel like I'm in a movie.
Yeah. It's like, and it's mind-boggling to think that this is not something that's happening to us just personally or just in our town or just in our country. It's the whole world.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's so mind-boggling what's happening. And it's funny because I've talked to a few people, and some people, I think they're understandably maybe trying to be optimistic or put on a brave face, and some people I've talked to said, I'm sure this will be over relatively quickly, or it's not going to be that bad, or only affects elderly people, you'll be fine. And that's kind of frustrating to hear, actually, because I understand maybe there's good intentions, and we want to be hopeful, we want to be optimistic, and yet it's kind of like, seriously, like, aren't you kind of concerned? And
Disney World is closed, people.
Yeah.
Hello.
It's really
Broadway is closed.
It's an unprecedented thing. I'm not saying we should, run around in panic, but I think it's like I'm wanting people to mirror, right, what I'm feeling a little bit, and to acknowledge, right, that are you feeling this too? This sense of, wow, oh my gosh, like this is really a big deal, and kind of allow ourselves to be vulnerable a little bit, and that's kind of like part of what I wanted to talk about with you was that it's like so much, it's like the machine of the system that we've been living in for so long, and it's always about productivity and progress, and as individuals, I think that's affected us, that it just has to keep on going, and the system can never stop or never slow down. And I think as individuals, we live that way too. like a lot of people are workaholics, and we just have to feel like we just can't stop. Just, you got to put on, this sense of indestructibility almost. And like, it doesn't matter if you're sick, got to go to work anyway, and now there's been a wrench that's thrown into that whole thing and is forcing the whole world to stop. And it's almost like that's never happened on this scale before.
No, definitely has not. I mean, like you said, right? We are always so busy. Work, work, work. Go, go, go. Bring the kids to school, pick them up, do extracurricular activities, throw some dinner on the table, bedtime, and then do the same thing over and over again every day. And it's really just crazy. And it's funny because there's a lot of things that are coming to light because of this. This is a horrible global pandemic, and yet we are being forced to spend time together as a family, which is sort of a beautiful thing. We are spending more time out in nature, which is a beautiful thing. It reminds me of that movie with Will Smith called Collateral Beauty. I love Will Smith, but it's not the best movie in the world, but it has a good message. So collateral beauty is sort of when something horrible happens and you can sort of see a little bit of the silver lining, right? So in this situation, I am finding a lot of collateral beauty.
Yeah, but I almost want to say, let's back up a second, because I do want to explore that stuff and the silver lining and the ways in which we want to make positive meaning and find hope and be optimistic about the situation. But once again, it's almost like I want to check in and ask you, like, how are you actually feeling? Like, how are you doing? Because I think we all need to be reminded to allow ourselves, once again, that earlier point, to feel the way we feel. And that so many different emotions are coming up. And it's almost like, I think as a society, we're not really used to being in touch with our emotions and giving them expression in a healthy way. We kind of just sweep them under the rug, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we've been doing all along. And it's like, oh, it'll be fine. Let's just keep going. But I don't know. I think that's the first step, right? Before sort of going into the silver lining piece is acknowledging what we're feeling and getting in touch with that. It's like in the book of Lamentations in the Bible, right? It's like, it reminds us our ancestors have been through these kind of world-shaking, cataclysmic events, like the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem and exile into Babylon and the Roman occupation, and all these things were just these drastic, events and catastrophic for people. And just turned their whole lives upside down. And so part of what we see in the Bible is almost like a kind of a grief work that's being done, and this expression of the way that people were feeling during those times. And I feel like we've used those texts, and people, generations after those texts were written, have used those texts in order to kind of express their own grief at what's happening. So yeah. So how are you feeling about all this? Well,
it reminds me of the other day when, I generally don't cry, right? Mm-hmm. So it reminds me of the other day when you told me something about tomatoes. I wasn't supposed to use those. You were saving them for a different recipe. And I just started bawling my eyes out over the stove as I stirred like the kids' mac and cheese. And that was not at all about the tomatoes, that was about all of this. And that day in general, I was just very emotional and sort of crying at the drop of a hat. And I think that's exactly, this whole thing has just really unnerved all of us. And I was just crying a lot throughout that day because there's been so much preparation for us in terms of, okay, well, what do we do? What do we do? What are actionable things that we can do? That's usually how I process this stuff, right? Is, okay, I'm nervous, I'm scared, I'm afraid, I'm uncertain. Okay, I will take action. What can I do about that? I'll get toilet paper like everybody else, right? Or some cans of beans or hand sanitizer or something. But after you have that, then what do you do? What do I do with these emotions? I don't know. What do we do? I guess we talk about them, right? I know my kids, we're having them journal, our kids, and draw pictures, and that's helpful. They seem sort of unfazed by it largely because we already homeschool. They just kind of miss playing with friends and going and doing all of the activities we usually do. But now we're just doing the activities at home.
Right.
But I don't know what to do really as an adult, because when someone says, how are you doing? You just say, good, fine, yeah, you? There's usually only a handful, if you're lucky, of people where you can really bare your soul to and bare your real emotions. So once again, I just don't really know what to do with these. I mean, I guess you could express it through art or journal about it or write about it. But I really think the most helpful thing to do is talk about it, and maybe that can be done in a therapeutic session with an actual licensed therapist. But really, you could even just call your friends, call your family, because they're feeling the same thing, likely,
Yeah.
Or maybe they're at a different stage. Maybe they're still in the what can I do stage. But as more cities get locked down, there's not much you can do. The shelves are pretty empty and not really supposed to go anywhere at this point.
Yeah. Well, I'm a fan of the Rob Bell's Robcast, his podcast. And one of the things that he talked about, which I found interesting, he did a podcast, he also recording with his wife, and they were talking about how there's something really primal that's going on with our emotions right now. Because, so many people deal with this kind of thing on a daily basis, but it's really hitting home for so many people now. This primal feelings that come up when you're not sure, even if you have money, right? If there's going to be food in the store. And, you talked about collateral beauty, right? And it's, I have to say, I feel as though I've been tasting my food better.
Yeah.
And we've been learning how to conserve better. Like, I feel like we've become less wasteful.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're thinking, okay, we don't know how long this thing is going to last, so let's try to not use up too much food and too many of our resources. And I do think that this feeling of gratitude comes up, that we do have enough right now. When there's people getting into fistfights at the store over milk, you have these videos on social media that are popping up, and I'm just grateful, with our 3 young kids, and it's like, okay, we do have what we need at this moment. And
I think that really comforts them a lot too.
Right.
Because I just let them know, listen, we have everything we need, and, you're safe. Just, every night when we tuck the kids into bed, I tell them, you are safe, you are loved, you are wanted and provided for. And I've always told them that, even before this whole crazy situation. Because that's one thing I've always thought about, is just, I always try to marinate in gratitude before I go to bed. And I think about so many places in the world where you're not safe. And maybe some people don't feel loved or wanted or provided for. There's this movie, Hotel Rwanda, and I'll just never forget that movie. And they were not safe in that movie. And there's just a lot of places in the world where you're not safe, and just to go to bed and know that you're probably going to be fine when you wake up in the morning is just amazing. And that's something that I've always sort of thought about and been grateful for. But now, with all of this going on, I am finding more things to be grateful for. And I know, we talked about processing our emotions and what we do with them and talking about how we feel. But I've felt a lot of fear, right? So what I'm trying to do is step away from that fear mentality and go more into my faith right now. Because there's that story about the two wolves. I forget exactly how it goes, but it's something about having two wolves. There's like a good wolf and a bad wolf, or a light and dark one or something, and they're fighting. And so which one is the stronger one? Which one's going to win? Well, it's the one that you feed, right? So the news and all this stuff, it's important to stay updated, but it's also important to really choose your perspective on how you're feeling about things, right? Because another person I love is Wayne Dyer, and he has this quote, "When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change," right? So your perception of an experience creates the way you feel about it, right? I don't want to get too deep into that, but I'm just saying that when there's a situation, I've been living very fear-based and very worried and very stressed out. And fear has its purpose. It's there for a reason, right? But after it's fulfilled its purpose, just marinating in it isn't going to do anything good for me. So I feel like right now I'm in the process of trying to step away from the fear and step into my faith. And by doing that, I'm going to be able to see the collateral beauty, and marinate in that gratitude.
Yeah. I think it's good points, and I think that of course that there, once again, I think it's a back and forth almost. It's like there's a dynamic between that we need to acknowledge and grieve and not, right? Because it's like it is. I could see people kind of maybe thinking we got to be careful about how we're just trying to just put a positive spin on things, right? When no, like this sucks.
Yeah,
this sucks, and it's horrible, and people are dying, and people are going to be. Like I think about all the medical workers, all the doctors. There's been pictures. I don't know if you've seen. I've been seeing on social media where when they take off their masks, right, because they've been working, I don't know, 12-hour shifts or longer, and you can see the lines of the outline of the mask, and they actually have bruises on their face and cuts because they've been wearing their mask and goggles for so long, and so it's like, man, and people are isolated and lonely and afraid and all of that. So I think that that needs to be acknowledged and recognized, and needs to be said that this is really rough, and we wouldn't want to wish this kind of thing on anybody. And I hope that we'll be able to stop it as quickly as possible. But like you're saying, I think that it's in our nature to want to make meaning out of things and to have hope, right? And to find resilience and to see, like you said, what is the collateral beauty? What are the sort of hidden things that we can learn or discover that from this experience, right? That no matter what experience happens, it's like, certain things definitely should not happen. This virus should not happen, but it doesn't mean that we can't somehow learn and grow as a result of our experience dealing with it. And I hope that we will, as a society, learn and grow from it. There's so many things, like, on a personal level, I've been really grateful because, I've seen these things again on social media because we have nothing else to do.
You're going to get off the social media.
I know. But, we're quarantined here. So, but, you see like, how introverts are reacting all over the world.
Well, we're not literally quarantined. It's a self-quarantine. We're not diagnosed with anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. But how introverts are reacting to, now you have to stay at home, and they're kind of like celebrating that,
Yeah.
And I think in some ways maybe I felt a little bit of that. It's like, oh, some of us like to stay home, and
I love to stay home. You're the one who most days you're like, we got to get out in the fresh air. We got to go take a walk in the woods. And I'm like, meh, I can just stay right here on the couch. Thank you very much. You take all three of the kids and I'll be here waiting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you need balance with everything. But in general, I do like being home. But one of the things I've been really grateful for, we didn't even know this when we moved into this apartment complex, but that there's a good amount of forest behind our apartment complex.
So much.
And there are trails back there. And there's even a lake we discovered.
Surprise lake.
Yeah. So I've been really grateful that we can do that and still feel safe about it and feel like, we're practicing our social distancing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and just connect with nature and connect with spirit and be mindful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
An opportunity to do all that, yeah.
Yeah, and when I'm talking about the collateral beauty, I think it's important to clarify that there's a lot of people out there right now, particularly in Florida at the beach, who are not taking this seriously enough. And that is a big problem, right? So right now, it's like you have to find the balance. You don't want to be so fear-based and panicking and freaking out and full of anxiety all day, every day, because you just can't sustain that. It's not healthy. It's not good for anybody. It's not going to be productive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you also don't want to be so lax about it and so carefree and, oh, it'll be fine and it'll all be all right, and just be going to the beaches and going out to eat and stuff like this. We need to be practicing the social distancing, staying home as much as you can within reason, and doing all the steps that we're being advised to do, And I really just want to clarify that, because although my emphasis right now in this episode is sort of the collateral beauty, that's just because that's where I'm personally at right now in my process of going through my emotions, right?
Yeah.
So because I started being really aware and awake to this probably around March 6th, I would say, because when I saw that China had quarantined millions of people and they were building hospitals within like a week, I said, that's coming here. That's going to be us. That was my initial reaction when I saw that happen in China. So that was a little bit earlier than sort of the mainstream people got here in the U.S. Mm-hmm. We only really in the U.S. started feeling that way about a week ago. But I personally started feeling that about 2 weeks ago. So for me, the past 2 weeks, I've been very panicky, fear-based, riddled with anxiety. And now I feel like I'm ready to step into turning it over to God,
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we can't do anything about this except what we're being advised to do. And
Serenity prayer, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like God, at the end of the day, it's all out of our hands. It's all out of our hands. You got to live through
serenity
faith.
to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
And that's my favorite part, is the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the hardest part.
Right. So, and bringing it back to, like, I think this is one aspect of it, is like we said, what can we learn from this experience? I mean, I hope that we will learn from it. I mean, both on different levels. It's like, I think that nobody was prepared for this really to happen. And I think that it teaches us that we talk a lot about how we know we're interconnected, right? But this really drives the point home that we are all interconnected.
Your germs are my germs.
I mean, it's so hard to be separate and try to separate ourselves. And I think we have to be grateful that we have technology that we can stay informed and stay in communication with other people. But there's so much, that we need to learn from this. I mean, we talked about so many of the the fact that people don't have paid sick leave, they don't have, they're worried about paying their medical bills. So, people are showing up to work sick, and because they can't afford not to work. And so now, of course, you're having places closed down, which I think is, obviously really putting a strain on the economy, but it's necessary, I think, to stop this. And so once again, it's revealing, and it's going to continue to reveal, I think, the ways in which the system is flawed and how fragile the system is.
Yeah, it's really highlighting the weak points in our policies and the things that we value in our society, right? And so that's why, once again, I go back to, I think that is sort of a good thing, right? It's a good thing that it's highlighting these weaknesses in our policies. So hopefully we can see how important they actually are for us to have appropriate sick leave. I mean, I love that France...
Being able to just take time off without it bankrupting you.
Yeah, and I love that France has a policy where workers do not have to go to work if they fear that going to work is going to put them at any kind of danger or risk, right? And I'm like, that's a wonderful law to have, and I just feel like that highlighting the weaknesses in our policies, hopefully at the end of this, we're going to come out stronger. We're going to come out more united as families, having spent all this time together, as a country, having gotten through this, and hopefully as a world,
Right.
and seeing how we need each other. And maybe even the economies can strengthen by trying to realize, a lot of the medications we need to survive are made offshore. And a lot of the medical equipment are made offshore. Well, maybe we can make those at home, which would be better for global warming when you don't have to ship it all around the whole world. And it would bring jobs here to the local economies. And maybe that would be something that all countries could do, is make sure they can manufacture their own essential equipment. Now, maybe that's too simplistic. I don't know how everything works. I'm sure you need parts from here and mine other parts from there. So maybe that's not possible, but we're innovative. We're innovative.
There's another thing is the school systems.
Yes.
It's highlighting that. I mean, I didn't even know this. I mean, the fact that there's a lot of, because they were talking about, okay, well, let's shut down the schools. But then some people were saying, well, let's not be too quick to do that, because actually certain kids are homeless and actually need to go to school in order to have shelter and food to eat and protection. And it's like, what is wrong with our system that kids are not being taken care of, and that they have to depend on school in order to have food to eat?
And I feel like that sort of situation, for example, is a great example of how we're like, well, this is America. This is America. We're the greatest country in the world. That doesn't happen in America. It does. We have all sorts of issues here in America, like real issues like homeless, hungry children, And so when the schools have to shut down, they needed to figure out a way to get food to the kids, right?
Yeah.
And that's not something I ever even thought about.
And it highlights how important and essential schools are. Right. So it's showing us, I think I saw another thing. It was talking about, this is showing us what industries, what jobs, what institutions are necessary in our society, because the ones that aren't are all closing for the most part, right?
Yeah.
And so it's showing us what is essential, what needs to stay open, and therefore we should be investing more. AKA teachers should be paid more, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, teachers, they do amazing work, and I just really feel like, once again, seeing the schools close and then seeing, taking advantage of all the technology that we have available, right? Because we homeschool. Mm-hmm. And so although I, love the work that teachers are doing, we have multiple reasons for homeschooling. Mm-hmm. And I just really feel like there's so many resources out there right now that people are realizing that they can use to educate their kids. It's not just worksheets and textbooks, right? But I people keep joking that, oh, now everybody's homeschooling and now they'll all see what it's really like. Well, just so you know, this still is not exactly what homeschooling is like, because we get a lot more socialization than this. We go out to museums and zoos, and we get together with different co-ops and play with kids, and there's a lot more that we do than just literally stay at home and learn at home. It's a very simplistic view of it, so just throwing that little sidebar in there.
Yeah. Gotta advocate for homeschool, right?
Gotta.
Yeah, but it's also driving me kind of crazy, obviously, like, as much as I love the kids, being with them constantly is exhausting, and but I do love them. But yeah, it's just highlighting so many things. I mean, even like, right, what is essential in terms of what do we have to show up physically at work to do, and what jobs can be done from home. What meetings do you have to attend in person, and what can you just do from home? So I think it's incredible how it's forcing so much to change and to be reevaluated, and it's just massive on the scale at which it's happening.
Yeah, and I don't think the world will ever be the same after this. And who knows what the long-term implications of this will be, but I think that there's certain things that we're really going to value a lot, like being able to run to the store without picking up a life-threatening virus, and going out to eat with friends, just hugging a friend. Like, it makes me want to cry because I miss my mom.
Aww. Well, this will pass, right?
I'm getting all emotional about it. I want to play Scrabble with her.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, I'm glad you're processing it, Take your time.
I don't want to process it. I don't like emotions. But, something like this goes on, and sometimes you just want a hug from your mom.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think a lot of people are feeling that way right now,
Mom, when you hear this, you're going to cry.
Yeah.
But I love you.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, it's a really difficult time for so many of us, It's just a hard place to be, but we're with you. We're with all of you, We're all that's the thing too. I think when if you find yourself really getting caught up in all this emotion, I think one of the things that can really help is really thinking about all of the people who are feeling exactly like you're feeling right now.
But see, that sort of just breaks my heart a little bit more, And I mean, maybe that's a good thing, or maybe, I don't know, it is what it is. But I think about, there's that nursing home in Washington where I think now it's 35 people have died there, and I saw videos and online about the kids who go in to visit their parents in the nursing home, and they're just talking to them through the window, and they'll just set up a chair and they sit with them in front of the window and try to just be there with their parents.
Yeah. There's no simple thing, right, where it's like, oh, here's 5 great things you can do to cope with the coronavirus, right? It's like this is what it is to be human.
Yeah.
This is what it is to be human, but I don't know. I take some comfort in realizing that I'm not alone in feeling this. I mean, we're wanting to move on to the next stage of our lives, and I'm trying to search for a position as a pastor, and
we're wondering, we really want to get a house. Right now we're in a 2-bedroom apartment with 5 of us.
Yeah, family of 5.
And we're going a little crazy, but once again, we're not alone in that. And we're really eager for this next stage of our lives and going and buying a house and stuff. And we wonder, geez, what is this going to mean for buying a house? Is this going to be bad? Are they not going to be giving out loans and taking risks on mortgages? Or are they going to be very eager because they want to get people spending money? Who knows? I don't know.
Right.
But I do know we need to get out of this 2-bedroom apartment, and we need more space. But
and we don't know when this is going to be over.
Yeah.
But like, as we talked about, I mean, when you really think about it, we feel extremely fortunate that we even get to, if you're complaining about staying home and being bored, it's like we get to stay home, right? There's so many people who have to be on the front lines of this and who are busting their butts and really are exposed risking their lives. Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know how to pronounce his name, the guy in New York, the New York City governor or whatever, Cuomo. Yeah, he was saying, people were asking him in an interview, they were like, oh, should Congress shut down and all the legislators and everything stop meeting? And he's like, no. He goes, listen, if nurses and doctors can show up and put their lives at risk and be on the front lines with these people who are, confirmed cases of this virus, then I can show up and do some paperwork and make some legislative decisions. We need to show up. Congress and Senate need to show up right now to give us permission to do all the things we need to go do to, prevent things from happening and try to flatten the curve, And I said, that's a great point. And I also saw a meme on Facebook or somewhere, and it said, your grandparents were called to war. You're being called to the couch. I think you can handle it, right?
You can do this.
You can do this.
Yeah.
I absolutely can be called to the couch and handle that.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a lot of the emotional stuff of the uncertainty. I worry about like my aunt who's elderly and my dad who, he just thinks he's invincible. Nothing's going to kill him. Bah, 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 bah. I'm so tough and cool. So he's still kind of got that mentality. And I'm trying to break through to him like, you better not leave the house, sir. Because I know your underlying conditions. And I don't know if you're going to make it through. But so it's like really worrying about your family and things like that. And it's just all very uncertain, you know?
It is. And in a way, I'm trying, like I always try to look at things as an opportunity to practice mindfulness because I do struggle with it so much, and I think I have a tendency to be kind of an anxious person, even though people tell me I have this non-anxious presence and stuff. But
it is funny because you do.
Yeah.
You have this very calming, spiritual, sweet, genuine presence. Like anybody who meets you just knows like you're a good, trusting person.
But the reality is my mind does have this tendency to spin and tell stories and worry about the future, as you well know, right? So
yeah, but I think a lot of times you're thinking about like deep philosophical, religious stuff, You're not always just like constantly worrying. You're just such a deep thinker. You're always pondering things.
Yeah, well, I don't know. With this, it's an opportunity, I think, because I think we are trying to plan and say, okay, are we going to have enough food and what's going to happen next? But I think it's continually, because of the uncertainty, it's like, once again, serenity prayer, right? You do what you can. You take the steps you need to try to be safe, to try to protect your family, to be smart. But then you let it go and you bring it back to this moment and just appreciating just this very moment that right now we're okay, and having compassion for all those who are at risk right now and who are suffering, but remembering that in this moment it's okay. So
yeah, and I feel like that's where it really comes back to giving it over to God and surrender, and just whether you believe in Jesus or Buddha or Allah, I don't think that the name necessarily matters. I just feel like whatever is going to let you release that fear and whatever you're going to give that over to, And I came across a beautiful prayer that I want to try to read a little bit, if you don't mind. Is that
sure.
Okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Jesus Christ, come to our aid now in the midst of the global spread of the coronavirus, that we may experience your healing love. Heal those who are sick with the virus. May they regain their strength and health. Heal us from our fear, which prevents nations from working together and neighbors from helping one another. Heal us from our pride, which can make us claim invulnerability to to a disease that knows no borders. Jesus Christ, healer of all, stay by our side in this time of uncertainty. Be with the families of those who are sick as they worry and grieve. Defend them from illness and despair. May they know your peace. Be with the doctors, nurses, researchers, and all medical professionals who seek to heal and help those affected and who put themselves at risk in the process. May they know your protection and peace. Be with the leaders of all nations. Give them the foresight to act with charity and true concern for the well-being of the people they are meant to serve. Give them the wisdom to invest in long-term solutions that will help prepare for or prevent future outbreaks. May they know your peace as they work together to achieve it on earth. Whether we are home or abroad, surrounded by many people suffering from this illness, or only a few, dear God, stay with us as we endure, persist, and prepare. In place of our anxiety, give us your peace. Jesus Christ, heal us. In the name of God, amen.
Amen. Yeah, I came across it's actually a poem, and I wanted to share that as well. It was a poem that was written by Lynn Unger, called Pandemic. What if you thought of it as the Jews consider the Sabbath, the most sacred of times? Cease from travel, cease from buying and selling. Give up, just for now, on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray, touch only those to whom you commit your life. Center down. And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny it now. Know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that has come clear. Do not reach out your hands. Reach out your heart. Reach out your words. Reach out all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, so long as we all shall live. You know, in a way, it's kind of like a life-affirming poem, a life-affirming poem in the midst of all this. And I think that's important. Like I said, in addition to just acknowledging how crappy this situation is, to still in some way to be able to affirm the beauty of life. And I think that really goes along with what we're hoping to get at in this episode, the whole idea of collateral beauty.
Yeah, I mean, all we can really do is just be in the moment, surrender, and hope that at the end of it all, we come up more united than ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, once again, I think the point of even just doing this, in addition to just marking the moment and acknowledging the gravity of the situation, to offer some hope, but primarily, I think, just to remind people that we're in this together and we're feeling the way you're feeling, and it's normal to feel all these mixed emotions. That's just part of what it means to be human, and my hope is that we're going to find our way through this together. You know.
Yep. So I guess that's a good note to end it on. Yeah.
Well, stay safe, practice social distancing.
Stay home as much as you can.
Yeah, wash your hands.
A lot.
Yeah, we all have to do our part in this.
Yeah, every choice you make is important. And just reach out to those that you love and stay in contact with people, check in on each other.
May you and all your loved ones be safe and healthy in the midst of this. Till next time, folks.